It's the first installment of my All-Stars 2 rewatch, and I'm not holding anything back.
Oh, at all.
Hello, and welcome to this special series, Ruvisiting All-Stars 2 a Decade Later. I'm Kevin O'Keefe, and exactly a decade ago, as of the day of this upload, August 25th, 2016, the second season ever of RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars premiered on Logo and VH1. Any Drag Race superfan can tell you why it took Logo and World of Wonder 4 years to greenlight another season of All-Stars. That first season was a truncated mess. It ran only 6 episodes, and there was a teams format that was ill-advised and wound up eliminating probably one of the best casts Drag Race has ever put together at lightning speed. There were some good moments, like when Tammy Brown threatened to teleport us Teletubbies to Mars, or Raven could not believe that Mimi Imfurst was number 3 in the voting. But by and large, it was a failed experiment. So it was a miracle that Drag Race decided to try All-Stars again, and thank the drag gods they did. Because All-Stars 2 is considered one of the best seasons of all time. Some even consider it the absolute GOAT. But through this revisit, we will decide whether it is worthy of that title. Episodes of this recap series will post every Tuesday on this channel, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button to make sure that you don't miss one. You can also follow me at Ruvisiting on Instagram to get all of the latest updates, and visit Ruvisiting.com to find all of my Drag Race content from the last 10 years, including the recaps of these very episodes that I wrote in 2016. On that note, let's take a trip back in time to August 25th, 2016 to revisit the premiere episode of All-Stars 2. It was such a joy to rewatch this episode. It has aged beautifully, and it was great when it started. I love how you can immediately tell who really has their eyes on the prize. Katya comes in, is a little funny, references Chad Michaels and her love of the Hunger Games from All-Stars 1 with the Happy Hunger Games and Russian line. But like Chad, she is focused and galvanized. She really reminds me of Sami Landri from Canada All-Stars that just wrapped up. There's a focus to her. There's I was fun and goofy the first time around, but this time I really mean business. I'd forgotten that Katya really came in with this attitude, and as we know from history, it pays off in a big way. It's great to see all the season 5 girls again. Obviously Alaska, Detox, Alyssa Edwards, who comes in fully fledged as Alyssa Edwards. If season 5 Alyssa Edwards was still sort of in the pageant world, didn't know her own power, she comes into All-Stars 2 basically at the form we know her at now. She understands what makes her entertaining. She understands how to harness her personality for television. She's great from the jump. She and another season 5 queen, Coco Montrese, after their rivalry on their original season, have since buried the hatch. That's Alyssa's malapropism. They're basically good. What kind of doesn't work about that is it immediately deflates some of the air out of casting them both together. And as we'll see by episode's end, it feels like they don't really know what to do with Coco in the absence of that argument. There is a lot of talk from the jump about reputational repair that needs to happen this season. Fifi O'Hara promises no sabotaging this time. We'll see how that turns out. And Roxxxy Andrews, also of course from season 5, really talks about how she got lost in the competition and her rivalry with Jinx Monsoon last time, and wants to avoid that at all costs this time, wants to stay focused.
On season 5, I let the competition get the best of me, and I was playing messy, so I have a lot to prove.
Katya's season 7 sister Ginger Minj is also here, making her first of many All-Stars appearances. There have always been rumors that this was either a contractual obligation that Katya and Ginger Minj had to come back so quickly, or Ginger was sort of given the opportunity and was told it's now or never. Again, hilarious considering what would happen. But you can tell from the very start that Ginger is just kind of not into this.
Come on, All-Stars, let's get this over with.
The two biggest gags on this cast are Adore Delano coming back from season 6 with this new grunge aesthetic, and Tatianna all the way back from season 2. It is really funny in retrospect how the other queens talk about Tatianna being from this ancient season, old era. First of all of this is kind of old era now. Anything that aired on Logo is. But the other thing about it is, it was 6 years between season 2 and All-Stars 2. Crystal Method, who was just on All-Stars 11, had exactly 6 years between season 12 and All-Stars 11. And she still feels like a fairly new era queen. It's just different back then. We didn't have as many seasons. From the start, Ru is really framing this season to be about legacy.
From this moment on, everything you do is about building your legacy.
Okay.
It's kind of like the mission statement of the season. Not every season has one, but like you think of All Stars 6 with the second chances are paramount thing. It does happen sometimes, and I like it as a guiding movement here. This is not just a normal season. With All Stars 1, they kind of treated it, obviously with the teams and everything, there was a twist, but they treated the cast like they were just any other cast in a lot of ways. The challenges really weren't up to their level. This season, the show is really treating these queens like they are actual working stars. There's talk of touring and mentions of what they've been up to off the show. It's a different attitude, and I think it really works for this cast. And it makes the announcement gaggier that he will not be eliminating any queens this season.
What? Because you are all-stars, I will only be rewarding success.
He does talk about the lip sync for your legacy twist and the fact that the top 2 queens will lip sync for a $10,000 cash tip, but that's it. The other elements of this twist are not mentioned in this moment. Alaska gets paranoid later saying, I don't think they would do a non-elimination season. Spoiler, Alaska, later on they would do 2 of them, and the second one won't prove why we need eliminations. Speaking of Alaska, obviously Roxxxy and Detox are also there. In season 5, the 3 of them were known as Relaska Tonks, sort of a 3-headed Hydra clique. And Alaska makes very clear that she doesn't want to get the band back together. Anyone who's watched this season will know that that is a very interesting statement. But we'll have plenty of time to get into that. Roxxxy, for her part, is really zeroing in on the idea that this is her chance to redeem her reputation from her original season. She does not blame the edit. She does not say things were taken out of context. She owns that, like, she got too fixated on Jinx and sort of lost herself in the process.
I learned from my mistakes and I changed my attitude, and there's no way that that can happen again. I don't want to be that girl. I won't be. I refuse.
Interestingly, this is another moment where we see Katya really say, these girls are more worried about reputation than they are the crown. And again, it's presenting Katya as having her head in the game, being really focused, in a way that really, I would say, only Alaska is otherwise. The only other queen I would say is not really being shown as like super invested in reputation or reintroducing herself a la Tatianna is Adore. While she does have this new aesthetic, she's not really presenting it as, and I want it to be validated by Drag Race. It's like, I'm here, I'm doing this. Obviously, we will see what happens with Adore down the line, but at the time, I would say that Adore was one of the main threats to actually win the season. Like, if I think about it, it was really Alaska, Katya, because she was such a fan favorite, and yeah, Adore as the real threats to win it all based on both their show performance and what they've done off the show. But Adore is very much about, this is the life I'm living, this is the drag I'm doing outside of this. So it's interesting to see how those two things collide. On to the talent show. You can see even in this one that there is a lack of understanding on the show's part of what they want this challenge to be. This is obviously a little bit informed by hindsight because we've had this debate over the years about, is it a talent show? Is it a variety show? Is it glorified Work the World Tour auditions? But even now, you kind of get the sense that a lot of the queens are not delivering what the judges want in the back of their minds. But it's certainly not clear in these criteria. If I could sort of armchair psychoanalyze based on their eventual critiques, I think what the judges are looking for is a talent. Definitely doesn't need to be lip syncing at this point or everything like that, but it needs to feel draggy, like you're at a drag show watching it no matter what the talent is. I think some of these queens play their performances as pretty sincere, like it's just about the talent, whereas some of the queens already are getting that, like, it does need to be a little elevated, a little draggy, a little bit more entertaining, and some of the performances that don't do that will really suffer as a result. Adore's performance right out of the gate is a big example of this. She basically just performs like she would at a bar on her own tour. She sings one of her own songs. She sounds great. Contrary to what Michelle Visage will say later, I think she looks great, but it's pretty much just that. You can almost imagine the modern day version of this performance, right? Like there's like backup dancers in the back, there's a bunch of lights, there's maybe like fire coming out. It's just pretty tame and pretty straightforward. I don't think there's a draggy element to it, the way judges, again, had not really outlined as the criteria, but seem to be looking for. But honestly, you don't even have to wait till critiques. Michelle Visage is looking annoyed throughout this entire performance. Ginger Minj and Fifi O'Hara basically suffer from the same problem. Both of them are doing very sincere singing performances, and while Ginger sounds good, Fifi less so, as Coco Montrese said.
Girl, find the note, find the note.
But neither of them does anything super draggy with the performance of it. In fact, with the acapella, Fifi kind of strips everything away. It's just her in drag sitting there doing the performance. There can be sincere performances. I think Monet Exchange's opera act in All Star 7 is a great example of this, but that was also extraordinary. Obviously, Fifi not really delivering at that level. And even Ginger here, it's good, but it's not at the level of drag that the judges clearly want to see. I also think this is kind of a problem with Katya's gymnastics routine. She does ultimately play safe, and it's good. She's a good gymnast, but you can almost see the version of this now where there's like a whole lip syncing track added to it. I think that the judges would be expecting a little bit more than just doing the act. To me, the best representation of what a modern variety show performance would need to be is Alyssa Edwards's. It's actually funny, it's kind of what Alyssa just does on tour now. It's a lot of these created backing tracks of some of her own dialogue, of some of her own quotes, sort of being silly with it. The puppet obviously is funny. It's not so much a talent, I guess, it's literally labeled as a variety act, but I think it's what the judges are looking for. Similarly, Alaska, again, it's a song, but it's a very draggy presentation. It's very funny. I think it works really well. I also think this gets Detox a major pass. I don't particularly like this performance. It's the paint drumming thing that's labeled a singing performance. I don't even think she sings a note. I think it's a backing track the entire time, but it is pretty draggy. It's stupid in the way that Ru really likes. We're not quite at the point where Ru is like really nailing down on everything needs to be as stupid as possible, but you can sort of get the germs of what we would ultimately get here. It's not a great talent. I wouldn't even call it a great performance, but there's a certain showmanship to it that even though I would put Detox in my personal bottom 3, I get why the show didn't. The worst of the week are Fifi's, of course, and then Coco Montrese's dancing act. I think Tatianna says it best.
We all make choices, but that was a choice.
The very best of the week are Roxxxy's very draggy burlesque act, complete with the double wig reveal and everything, smart to reference your own stuff. We see that the judges love that. And Tatianna's legendary The Same Parts.
This piece is entitled The Same Parts.
This piece.
The Same Parts is genius. It is, to me, the single best talent act ever. She got it right the first one. Tatianna has kind of an uncanny ability to know what these new challenges are looking for. We see it in season 2 with Snatch Game. So many queens just had no idea what that challenge was supposed to be about, and Tatianna got it immediately. Similarly here, she knows that it needs to be a little bit of a spectacle. It doesn't need to be the most like clear, oh, I'm performing something that I've known how to do. It's a special skill. It's something she had written. It actually wasn't even her original thing. She had done a spoken word that was going to be using the quotes from the other queens, like iconic quotes from them. But she shifted to this, and it was a pre-written thing from when she was younger, and it works so well.
Say it with me. What you see isn't always true. Thank you.
Quotes from the other queens.
The same parts. The same parts. The same parts.
At the start of critiques, Ru finally lets the cat out of the bag and announces the other half of the All Stars 2 twist. Yes, the top 2 each week will lip sync for their legacy and for a $10,000 cash tip, but they will also be lip syncing for the power to eliminate one of the bottom queens.
Yesterday, I promised I wouldn't be eliminating any of you. And that's true. Because this season, you'll be eliminating each other.
But certainly they do not seem to be informed at this point. It really throws off everybody, as we'll see later in deliberations. But first, before critiques can even start, Michelle Visage warns the queens that because this is All Stars 2, she will be breaking down all the tea, and specifically says,
if you get hurt, get over it and up your game. Moving on.
And she was not kidding. She proceeds to go in really hard on Adore, not critiquing the actual vocal performance or the song at all.
This is the 14th Street dress, like that doesn't fit you. I don't care if you're gonna give me your hog body line or whatever it is. It's just, I expected more for you.
She makes a passive-aggressive comment about the hair. She goes in on the dress. It's a pretty brutal critique that actually surprised me. I did not remember this being this harsh. And you can see Adore really shut down over it. She is not accepting. Honestly, even in the days after, back when it aired in 2016, Adore was really insistent that Michelle's critiques were not a real problem. That it was something that the guest judge, Raven-Symoné, said that really upset her. But I don't know if I believe that. Obviously, we don't know what Raven said. It was cut from the episode, whatever the particular critique was. But I think it must be a combination of the two, because what Michelle says really, to me, goes beyond the pale of even like old mean Michelle.
We see your stuff out there, you're doing your thing, you've got your album, you're rocking the world.
She could be funny and be harsh. This was just really targeted to the point, in my opinion, of kind of being cruel. The other critiques lead to our bottom three, obviously, of Fifi, Coco, and Adore, and a top two of Tatianna and Roxxxy. Tatianna, obviously the other person in the top this week, pushes back on that quite a bit. She has two main points, both of which I think are really interesting to consider in retrospect. One is that at a certain point, people are going to start voting strategically. We have seen that happen many, many times. Again, the most recent Canadian All-Star season that just aired, certainly we saw plenty of strategy at play. But the other is that sometimes the queens may not agree with the judges' critiques. And there's something that happens in 2 weeks' time that I think really underlines this. But we'll talk more about that when we get to that episode. If someone is saved because of a friendship, that is going to be damaging to the person they save's reputation in the fandom. And I don't think I've ever seen foreshadowing quite that explicit. I did not remember that Ginger said this. Considering what happens with Real Alaska Talks, again, we have many episodes from now to get into that. But considering that, I think this is the most interesting line of maybe the entire episode. It basically foreshadows the entire rest of the season. Finally, we get to the lip sync for your legacy, the first ever lip sync for your legacy. It's to Taylor Swift's Shake It Off. Kind of rare to have a Taylor song. I can't think of a lot of others or any others. Roxxxy does ultimately win out in a pretty tight battle, I would say. She wins the $10,000 and she chooses to eliminate her season 5 sister Coco. It's worth noting that the other queens look miserable during this. It's the first ever time that they've had to eliminate within their own, and you can already see the toll it takes, not just on Roxxxy, not just on Adore. Obviously Adore is going through her own thing, not just on Coco, but really everybody looks pretty depressed. Even the little dance at the end is kind of half-hearted. But of course, RuPaul tells Coco via Rumail that all is not lost and she still has a chance at revenge.
Trust me, I'm not holding back. Oh, at all.
All in all, I think this is a great premiere. The structure is just really solid. The talent show, I know, has become something of a controversial challenge type over time, but at least here it's fantastic. The cast is a 10 out of 10. Even with the saturation of season 5 girls, it doesn't matter because they're just all so good. And I really love starting with the reading. Cast is a 10 out of 10. Very first thing. The reads in the reading challenge are almost all really good, but I actually think it's a lot of the things that happen outside of the reads that are particularly funny. This is where, of course, Alyssa saying "Beast" first comes into play. We get my favorite dismissal of a read when Coco does the "Alyssa Edwards, my darling dear, I can't stand it when you're near," and Detox just says,
Oh, Mother Goose.
and of course, we get Tatiana's classic ADR moment.
Alaska, I finally got to listen to Anus, and I get it, because it sounds like what my anus does after eating Mexican.
There are some Drag Race quotes that like aren't really quotes. They're just little things someone said once that actually stick in my head much more than like the big iconic quotes. This episode has one of my all-time favorites when Coco Montrese walks in and Detox says,
Oh, no, ma'am.
I truly walk around sometimes just going, "No, ma'am," in exactly Detox's cadence. I have watched too much of the show. I used to more casually rewatch Drag Race a lot more. Obviously, with the oversaturation of content, it's less common that I'm revisiting these episodes. I say all of this to say that when I heard the old version of the theme song come on, I was so disoriented. This is also back in the time of Gentlemen, Start Your Engines and May the Best Woman Win. Jinx's Judy Garland would be thrilled. I'd forgotten about All-Stars 1 winner Chad Michaels appearing in the Drag Race Hall of Fame at the start of every episode. It's a good bit. I'd forgotten about and thus cackled at Fifi's read during the reading challenge that Detox is Venus Delight.
And Venus Delight, bye!
Poor Venus. Things that are not a delight. I had forgotten that Todrick Hall is a regular judge this season. He appears in every episode. If there's anything that I would call a real, stain on All-Stars 2, it's just that Todrick is here. Todrick was never a good judge, never a helpful choreographer. I'm very glad we're beyond the Todrick Hall era and into the Jamal Sims era in modern drag. Finally, and I had forgotten about this, it's actually Roxxxy Andrews who starts the tradition of having one-on-one chats between the top queens and the bottom queens. Tatianna doesn't even do it in this episode, so it's not a requirement. And we see over time others not do it. I think Kennedy Davenport did not do it when she so happily eliminated Milk in All-Stars 3. But it definitely became part of the structure of these deliberations, so it's interesting not to see it here. So, now you know how I feel about the episode now, but how did I feel about it 10 years ago? Let's revisit the recap. So yes, I recapped each of these episodes when it first aired, and we're going to dive back into it so I can have kind of a conversation with my 24-year-old self. How much have I changed my thoughts on these episodes? As each queen enters the workroom and meets her competitors, you can practically see Drag Race story editors' minds churning. There are queens declaring that they're here to make up for previous bad behavior on the show, like Roxxxy and Fifi. There are queens who have evolved their drag and want to show that growth off, Tatianna, Fifi again. Queens who are seeking retribution for lesser-loved seasons, Ginger Minj for Season 7, Tatianna to an extent for Season 2. Queens seeking to grow their brands, Alyssa Edwards definitely. And queens seemingly without any particular reason to be here, Coco and Adore. So I do disagree with the notion that Adore did not have any reason to be there. And I think I was sort of thinking in hindsight in that, seeing how badly the episode went for her. Because as I said, going into the season, Adore was pretty heavily favored as one of, again, maybe 3 queens who had a real shot at winning it all. I think if there's any reason I would have said that about Adore, it's because she really did have her own thing going on in the real world. She was making music, she had carved out this lane for herself, and she was doing her drag the way she wanted to do it. Coming back to Drag Race means she is going to need to conform to some of those standards that Drag Race has for drag, that she herself has decided are part of her drag in her real life. But being on Drag Race does mean needing to come back into that. And it seems like it really throws her off to realize that in real time in the episode. Coco, on the other hand, I unfortunately do still agree that she did not have a clear reason for being there. While I love Coco, without a feud or any other kind of storyline with Alyssa, there was just only so much that she would be useful for within the narrative of the season. I do wish she would have waited. Granted, I'm saying that from a 2026 perspective when we're on All-Stars 11. At the time, it wasn't clear there would be an All-Stars 3, or if there was, would it take another 4 years to do, or 2 years to do? They didn't have that information, and I can understand saying yes because that might be the only time they call, but I don't think Coco was well served by being on this cast, and it did result in her going home first. Jinx was so close to the crown, Roxxxy says, explaining her mindset then. How am I gonna get her? I'm obviously not as funny as she is. I'm obviously not as smart as she is. I have to do something. It is really interesting to remember how much of Roxxxy's villain arc was specifically about Jinx. It wasn't just sort of general jerk or bad behavior. It was about targeting the ultimate winner of the season. Now that they've both been on other seasons since, Jinx with All-Star 7, the all-winner season, Roxxxy with All-Stars 9, I really don't associate them together anymore. Plus, they're friends now, which is great. Season. Now that they've both been on other seasons since, Jinx with All-Star 7, the all-winner season, Roxxxy with All-Stars 9, I really don't associate them together anymore. But Adore Great. seems especially beaten. We learn later when talking with Roxxxy, she almost gives up, saying she doesn't think she belongs on the show. Roxxxy reassures her that she's just having a rough go of it. This talk of things that happened off the show, that dynamic was very new at the time. We hadn't experienced that yet. I think All-Stars 1 came when there wasn't enough of that yet to fill stories, so All-Stars 2 was the first. We do see more of it now, but it is interesting to remember on the most recent All-Stars season, All-Stars 11, we had our first bracket where no queens had ever been on a season together. It was the purple bracket in All-Stars 11. And I think it was the best bracket yet. So maybe we got a little locked in at this point to the idea of, oh, these queens who have been on previous seasons together, or these queens who have experience working together, they're gonna come in with really natural storylines. So that's what I thought back in 2016. From the 2026 perspective, my final thoughts, I love this episode. I'm so impressed at how well it holds up. I actually think in some ways it's even better than I thought it was back then, and I loved this episode back then. But like the way it sets up the storytelling, both short-term with Adore and long-term with Alaska Talks, and talking about critiques in ways that would echo for seasons after this and how they should judge based on that, it's really impressive stuff, and it shows why the season got off to such a great start. Thank you so much for watching the first installment of Revisiting All-Stars 2 a decade later. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and give it a like and leave a comment saying what you thought about this episode upon rewatching it a decade later. I hope you rewatched it too, because it's a real next week. Just remember, we all make choices, but Coco's dance was a choice.